What's up, it's Mark back on the Sage of Soccer channel. Today I'm going to be running through my predictions for match week 12 of the Premier League, including the Manchester Derby. Going to start out with that and then run through everything chronologically. Timestamp in the description if you want to skip right to your favorite team. So starting things off, we got the Manchester Derby, Manchester United hosting Manchester City, and man, one of the biggest matchups of the year every year. But this one's a little bit different. We got Manchester United who are coming in on pretty bad form. Just dropped out of the Champions League. They have been winning their last few Premier League matches, but they've been leaving it late against teams like Southampton and West Ham, who are overachieving this year, but not the type of opposition you would expect Manchester United to really struggle with. Then you have Manchester City, who aren't doing the best this year, but are coming in on pretty good form after just winning, I believe, combined 10-0 in their last 3 games. So you got a team in their best form, you got a team in probably one of their bigger ruts of the year. So for Manchester United, got a couple of keys going into the game if you want them to win. I think their counterattack is going to have to be huge. You know this is a Manchester City team that loves to dominate the ball, but that does leave them susceptible to the counter. You saw it against Tottenham when Son was able to get free, and I think that can happen again here. You got guys like Marcus Rashford, who I've called probably one of the best guys on the break in the Premier League. You have Bruno Fernandes up there. If Martial or Cavani play, 2 decent finishers, and Bruno Fernandes, Mason Greenwood and Juan Mata, 2 decent players on the right. You have those guys, the break's going to be key for them. Next, defensively is going to be key, but I think specifically the fullbacks are going to have a huge game. You're going to be going up against probably Sterling and Mahrez. You're going to need Aaron Wan-Bissaka to lock down Sterling. That's a huge ask, but Wan-Bissaka was really brought in for his defensive abilities. His tackling is amazing, but positioning, not the greatest, and he can really struggle sometimes, but he's going to have a huge game against Sterling, and on the left, either Shaw or Tejas, they're going to have to step up. Shaw's been doing better than he normally does, but I still don't really rate him, and Tejas hasn't been great this year, so one of them are going to have a really nice game if they want any chance of winning. Lastly, just try to limit Kevin De Bruyne. He's Man City's main creative man, maybe the best midfielder in the world at the moment, so limiting him is going to be huge for this Manchester United team. Now, some things that they have to overcome. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer hasn't really gotten tactics right this year. It's a tough ask for him, but I feel like sitting in against this team, knowing how to counter, you know that Man City aren't going to change their style of play, so there is an ability to read what they're going to have, and I think that if they had a manager like Jose, honestly, even though it didn't really work out the first time, they'd be able to have a much better chance, but with Solskjaer, I'm not exactly too sure. Next, the whole Pogba situation that's going on, it seems like a pretty big distraction. Despite the fact that Pogba's been playing some of his best football in the last few weeks, it's a distraction. Maybe it causes them to bench him, and if they do, that could really hurt, because he's somebody who you know could play that huge ball for them on a counter. And honestly, in a counter-attacking game, that's where Pogba's at his best. That's what he was doing in the World Cup when he was able to win that with France. But if he's just in this situation and not able to start, that definitely hurts the team. And also the number 9 situation. Both Martial and Cavani seem to have picked up some knocks. I don't really like Rashford as a lone striker up top. Even if you're going to be pairing him with Greenwood, I'm still not the most confident in their ability to score. So hopefully they'll have something figured out. Maybe Martial or Cavani can come back, but even if they do, it doesn't look like they'll be at full fitness. Next for Man City, as I mentioned, they're coming in on pretty good form. So the keys for them, just find a way to score. This is a team that has finally overcome this issue, but early on in the year, they were really not coming with many goals. I think they only had 2 or 3 games where they scored more than 1, which is really unlike Man City of the past, but they have been picking that up a bit. Gabriel Jesus is coming back. Sterling, De Bruyne, Mahrez, they're finally starting to get going. So I think just coming up with goals is going to be key for them. And that is definitely going to be possible. This Manchester United defense isn't the greatest, but you are going to have to take the chances when they come. Next, stay strong defensively. This is a defense that has been improving a lot, with especially with Ruben Diaz coming in and João Cancelo really getting going again. Mendy's been back, but they do have to have a good game because this is a Manchester United team that we know is dangerous on the break. We know that they have a lot of athleticism in their attack, and it is a tough ask to deal with a team like that. And lastly, just late in the game, they need to stay focused because this is a team that has been coming back a lot, And Manchester City really haven't been using as many subs as they can. I think that they didn't even bring on one last week. They only used 3 when they had the option of 5 in the Champions League. So late in the game, it could be a bit of an issue, especially if they... I mean, not that I really rate him, but Daniel James can be dangerous with his pace. If they bring on Pogba, or maybe Martial just gets back from his injury but not full-time enough to start, he's going to be there. I think Aguero will be coming on, but defensively, that could be an issue late in the game. Another couple things I'm a little bit worried about with Man City. It does seem like they'll be starting Mendy and Stones at the back, and while they have been doing well this year, I think that we know they have the potential to screw up. I mean, Mendy, he really got exposed earlier this year. I want to say it was against Tottenham. I'm not too sure on the game, don't quote me on that, but there was one game this year where he was just getting burnt, and if they line up Marcus Rashford on the right, I would be very worried about that side. And John Stones, again, he has been doing well this year, but we've seen him have some meltdowns in the past, and there does seem to be the potential of that happening. Also, I'm not too confident in Gabriel Jesus right now, but Aguero should be coming on anyway, and Gabriel Jesus is still a decent striker. The only other concern I have is their struggle against more defensive teams, but I think that they do have the ability to break down a team and score. So, I just went through all that. I still think Man City comes away with the win. They're a really good team. They're coming on in pretty decent form. Manchester United, they're going to be down after the Europa League loss. And, yeah, I really see Manchester City coming away with the win. Next, we got the Friday game with Leeds against West Ham. And Leeds against West Ham, yeah. So Leeds are going to be missing out on Koch today, and he's going to be out for a while. So that should have made the team tough to predict, but Marcelo Bielsa went out and just showed his team. So good on him, making my job easier. They're going to be lining up with Melier, Dallas, Ayling, Cooper, Alioski, Phillips, Klitsch, Marino, Rafinha, Patrick Bamford, and Jack Harrison. Now, that doesn't say who's going to be playing center back. It could be either Ayling or Dallas. Partner and Cooper, I think it'll be one of them, but it is good to know the team, which not too sure if he should have done that, but he did. Or it could just be a lie, who knows? He did that whole Spygate thing a couple years back in the championship, right? You're spying on Derby, so he could be playing some tricks, who knows? But for them, I think their keys to winning are getting through the midfield. You got a defensive midfield partnership of Declan Rice and Thomas Souček for West Ham. That's going to be a really tough 2 guys to break down, but I think they have the ability to do that with Phillips, Glitch, and apparently Rodrigo in the midfield. Next, you're going to have to finish your chances. This has been something they've been struggling with a little bit, but Patrick Bamford has definitely shown the ability to score. He's going to have to finish off his chances. Jack Harrison's going to have to take a chance. Klitsch can't be missing shots like he was, I believe, against Everton, I think. And, no, that was against Arsenal, where he was missing just a ton of chances. And, Rafinha, he's been showing some decent form. Maybe he can keep that up. Lastly for them, really want them to just figure out their defensive setup. As I mentioned, I'm not even sure who starts at center back for them. Probably, I was thinking Ayling, but Dallas and Alioski are typically left-footed, so... And they do put in a good amount of crosses, so I'm not too sure who that's going to be. Just figure out the defensive setup. They were really struggling with balls into the box earlier this year, so try to figure that out and make sure it's a much better defensive performance. And, that's it for Leeds. For West Ham, their main key is stay stout defensively. This is probably going to be the whole team, or a whole back 8, I want to say, with their back 5, Declan Rice and Thomas Souček. They're all going to have to have a decent game. Sofal's going to have to be dealing with Harrison. You're going to have to be dealing with the Rafinha threat on the right. And it's going to be a tough defensive game, but I think they have the ability to do that. Next, I think Mikel Antonio is going to be huge for them. You've seen this Leeds team be kind of susceptible to counterattacks, and that's going to be a bit tougher now with one of the fullbacks in there defensively. So they are going to have a bit more pace, but I still think that Mikel Antonio will be able to get a few chances away from this game, and he might be able to come away with the goal. And lastly, for West Ham, I think that set pieces are going to be huge for them. I recently saw that Aaron Cresswell is actually making the most chances out of any fullback in the league, and he's been playing center back, so I'm thinking that most of those are coming off of set pieces. You had Ogbonna score a really nice goal last week, And this is a Leeds team I mentioned before, but their defensive balls into the box, both on set pieces and just regular crosses, it's really poor. So the set piece opportunity is going to be there. So Cresswell's going to have some good delivery. You're going to have Albana, Souček, and Rice in the box. I think that could be an easy way for them to score. And really because of that, I can see West Ham coming away with the win pretty easily. Well, not easily, because this is a Leeds team that's going to be fighting to the death, but I think the West Ham are going to be able to do this. Next, we've got Wolves against Aston Villa. And man, I feel like this is the first time Wolves have played on Saturday like all year. They are always getting stuck with the Sunday and Monday games, but they finally get the Saturday game, so let's see how they can do. So for Wolves, I'm really interested to see how this four at the back does. I was really interested when they first pulled it out, but now it's not too sure. I mean, they did get crushed by Liverpool, but that's Liverpool. You're going to concede goals against them. But you're really going to have to... It's a big test for Connor Cody, I think, in there. I think that Marcel and Johnny are probably more comfortable at the four at the back. But you're going to have Cody and Bully, who it might be tougher to get used to. So that four at the back, that's going to be a huge test for them that I want to see. Next for them, I really want them to dominate this midfield, especially if they've got the midfield three of Dendoncker, Ruben Neves, and João Moutinho in there. I think they have the ability to really dominate possession against this Villa team and really create chances from the midfield. Lastly, just fill in for Raul, because Raul's down. It looks like it's going to be for the season. I saw him in training recently, but I don't expect him to come back anytime soon with a fractured skull. So you're gonna have to have someone step up. That's Podence, who's going to be playing as a false nine through the middle. Maybe Fabio Silva will get the start, but they're going to have to figure out to fill in that gap for goals. That's a really tough ask for them, but hey, it's Pedro Neto, Fabio Silva. The price tag on those guys are huge, so they definitely have to be able to do that. Next for Aston Villa, main key, Jack Grealish. I mean, I feel like a broken record because you mentioned Grealish every time with Aston Villa, but he's their main guy, main creative threat, main goal threat probably. Maybe Ollie Watkins can rival him for that now, but he's going to have to be making some chances against this Wolves team because not going to have too many other unless we get a John McGinn game that comes once in a blue moon. Next, you're going to have to use their energy because they are coming off of a 2-week gap due to that Newcastle mishap. So they're going to have a lot more energy than this Wolves team, especially with Wolves not being able to rotate as much due to Jimenez's injury. So the energy is going to be there. Just try to get to this team tired, and I think late in the game they might be able to come away with the goal. Lastly, strong defensive performance, because this is a Wolves team that can really attack you. You know you have Traore, Neto, maybe Podence on the wings. The fullback's going to have to be ready. If there are some balls into the box, you're going to have Mings and Konsa ready for those. It's a really tough ask to defend this Wolves team, but they might have the ability to do that. This is the only game that I actually have finishing as a draw this week. Just tough to predict the Wolves team with Jimenez's injury, the switch to the four at the back, and Aston Villa has been pretty inconsistent this year. I don't really feel comfortable going either way, and I didn't have a draw this week, so yeah. Feeling like this Wolves-Villa game's going to end up in a draw. Next, we have Newcastle, the other team, coming off the 2-week break, and West Brom. So for Newcastle, I think the main key for this game is going to be Callum Wilson up top. This guy has been in crazy form this year. He's been a great buy. I think that he definitely has the ability to get behind this defense, or at the very least take the chances that this West Brom defense will give him. And him, especially if he's up there with Joelton. I'll get into if he's even playing later, but I think Callum Wilson definitely has the ability to make a huge impact on this game. Next, a strong defensive shift is crucial, because this isn't a West Brom team that are going to be a bit weakened after Mateus Pereira's red card, but despite that, they're going to be bringing in either Callum Robinson or Brady Diangana, and that's a lot of athleticism up top with Diangana, Grant, and Robinson. That's a tough ask to defend against those guys. It's a Newcastle team that has to be prepared for that, stay strong defensively, make sure you can come away with this win, and lastly, just get some luck with the virus, because I was looking up the injury report, and they are not specifying who got sick. I think that Callum Wilson is in the clear, because they're mentioning him coming back from injury, and I think he would have been training separately, but everybody else, cross your fingers, because I've got no information. hope that it's like Dwight Gale and DeAndre Yedlin who ended up getting the virus. I do like both those players, but not been a big part this year. Next up, West Brom. I mentioned before, but this athleticism in the attack, they got to use it to the max. It does suck that Pereira's going to be suspended, but they can take advantage. It's going to be... Oh, sorry. Just looking at something. They can take advantage of this lack of... They can take advantage of the athleticism up top. The ball behind is going to be huge. I'm really hoping that Gallagher will be able to step up. The midfield turning up is another huge thing. Gallagher, if it maybe even like a Livermore. Not too sure how this West Brom team is going to be lining up in absence of Pereira, but they have the ability to make something happen. And lastly, I really want them to defend well as a team. This is something that's obviously expected as a relegation fighting team, but the defense hasn't been the greatest this year, even in the five at the back, but just defend the hardest, defend as a team. They haven't really defended as a team that well this year. I feel like there's a bit of a gap between the midfield and the defense. So I've just tried to narrow that down. Overall, I see Newcastle coming away with the win, though, again, if the virus is unlucky, cut me some slack. Next, we've got a pretty good game with Everton against Chelsea. So for Everton, another thing that I sound like a broken record with saying, but get some service into Dominic Calvert-Lewin. This is a guy who's one of the best poachers in the league. Just get him the ball in the box, and he'll be able to put it into the back of the net. Next, the wingbacks are going to have to step up for Everton, because you're going to have a Chelsea attack that can be really dangerous taking on players. So when you get a Pulisic going at you, a Werner going at you, it can be a tough ask, especially if it's Tom Davies and a Iwobi or Fabian Delph. Whoever's in there for Everton as the wingback, it's going to be a tough game for them, so they're going to have to step up. Lastly, I want Jordan Pickford to have a really nice game this week. Dean Henderson has been getting some playing time for United, and with De Gea's pretty big mistake in the Champions League, he might be playing some more. So he's going to have to be playing well for this Everton job. I feel like he's been playing pretty well in recent weeks, so I did want to mention him. But if he can come away with some really nice saves, keep playing the ball at the back well, it can be huge for him. Next for Chelsea, I mentioned this before, but the wings attacking are going to be huge. You have Pulisic and Werner, and even Reece James and Ben Chilwell. The flanks are going to be a huge option for them, especially with Seamus Coleman and Luca Digne both out. The flanks are an area where they can dominate, have Conte in the middle, sweep up there. I feel like just attacking down the flanks will be huge. Maybe this might be a good game to get Tammy Abraham in there up front, or no, Olivier Giroud. He's on great form. Get Giroud starting, try to get some service into the box. I think that'll be key for them. Next, speaking of balls in the box, just deal with them. You're going to have Dominic Calvert-Lewin in there. I think Mendy's a pretty good goalkeeper to be up against him. He's a pretty huge guy. You got Kurt Zouma, he's an imposing figure. And Thiago Silva is obviously an elite defender. So using all of them, that could be huge for them. And lastly, just control the midfield. There's an Everton team that's probably a lot weaker in the midfield due to injuries. I think that they can get a lot of the possession up against the midfield two of Allen and Decore if they stay in the three at the back. So for this game, I think Chelsea come away with the win. Everton are dealing with a good amount of injuries, and Chelsea's on some really good form. I really think Chelsea can come away with the win pretty easily. Next, we got Southampton against Sheffield United, and maybe Sheffield will make it a game this week. They put up a pretty good fight against Leicester, but for Southampton, main keys, unlock the defense. The Sheffield team, we know how much they like to defend. You got John Egan and Basham back there, whoever they decide to start at left center back this week. Man, they really need to get some consistency. I'm going to be making that video on Sheffield United later. And, unlock the defense. I think dominating possession is going to be huge. Sheffield don't really have that much of a threat on the break, so I really don't think that's even something they have to worry about. So just dominate possession, keep that Sheffield team really on their toes defensively, and lastly, I think James Ward-Prowse is going to be huge for them. Yes, you know how dangerous he can be with his free kicks. Next for Sheffield, just try to find an attack. Ollie McBurney came with a goal last week, so that's something. But yeah, they just have to have an attack. It's been so bad this year. Next for Sheffield, deal with the pace defensively. You're going to have unless Danny Ings is able to come back, I'm not sure if he's at full fitness, but a good chance it's going to be Shea Adams and Theo Walcott up top. That's a tough ask for any team, but yeah, dealing with them defensively is going to be tough. And lastly, no dumb fouls, because we know how dangerous James Ward-Prowse can be, especially if you're a team that's going to be trying their hardest defensively and making sure you want to. And they haven't been dealing with set pieces that well this year, just making sure you don't give James Ward-Prowse any more chances than he needs to. Yeah, I really see Southampton winning this game. Sheffield's been really bad this year, and it's really disappointing. Obviously that O'Connell injury happened, but they should be a lot better. Next, we got Crystal Palace against Tottenham, and this would be a very interesting game in the last few years, but I think Tottenham are good enough this year that I can feel confident in them. But anyway, first getting into Crystal Palace, if Benteke can keep up his form, then they have a really good shot at winning or coming with points this game. Benteke, he's really been struggling to score, but had a huge game against West Brom last week, and I'm saying that it was West Brom, but hey, if he can keep up that form, keep that confidence rolling, that'll be huge for the Crystal Palace team. Next, the midfield is going to have a really good defensive performance. You're going to have Kane dropping into the midfield. You're going to have a MacArthur or a Milivojevic probably. You're going to have to be able to cover them. You're going to have to be dealing with Ndombele and Højbjerg. It's a tough ask for this Crystal Palace team, and I'm going to say dealing with Son is going to be a huge problem for them. Nathaniel Klein is back, and he has been doing well, but asking him to deal with Son is going to be a tough ask. If you have Patrick Van Aanholt in there and Son switches sides, that's another guy who could really get the best of him. Making sure you have a guy like Andros Townsend dropping back and helping to defend. Maybe it might be worth starting Jeffrey Schlupp ahead of S.A. I hate myself for even suggesting that, because he's just been such a good player this year, but might be the best chance to come away with a win. So yeah, that's what I think Crystal Palace have to do. For Tottenham, if they stifle Wilfried Zaha, they'll come away with at least a point. If you take away his creative threat, then Crystal Palace really have nothing going for it, especially if they do decide to play Schlupp ahead of Eze. But yeah, if you stifle Zaha, that Crystal Palace attack just gets curled up. Next, I think the midfield is going to be they're going to have to be huge. It's a Crystal Palace midfield that isn't that strong in possession. They work really hard. MacArthur has been one of the better defensive. When I say defensive midfielders, I mean defensive midfielders doing a defensive job. Not one of the best defensive midfielders, but best defensive midfielders. I mentioned that with Harrison Reed a couple weeks back. I hope you know what I'm trying to say. But that's going to be a tough team to break through. And lastly, I really want Harry Kane and Son to have a huge game. Jeez, I need to get some water. Yeah, sorry about that. I don't think anybody stays in this late anyway, though. If you are, comment pineapple. Okay, so, yeah, Kane and Son, they're going to have a huge game. Harry Kane's been a beast this year, both creatively and goal scoring. Son's been on some amazing form. Honestly, if I'm making a Team of the Year later, I got to consider both of them. Though I don't think Son's even up there for Team of the Year, and I think Dele Alli is. So, that's something. But, yeah, it's going to be tough to break down this Crystal Palace team, but when you have the attacking threat that Tottenham do, I think they'll be able to do that, and they're probably going to win. So, next we got Fulham against Liverpool, and, jeez, going to be a tough game for Fulham. They're coming off a Man City game, too, so a couple of tough asks right in a row. So, if they want to win, a strong defensive performance is going to be key. I don't think I have to explain that, but this is Liverpool. Their attack's amazing. Honestly, I think that you can even forget about the defensive performance and just go like, okay, we're going to be conceding. We might as well attack. They got some pretty good offensive options. Lookman, he's playing pretty well. Divock Reed's been on some pretty good form. Calviera's finally been hitting some penalties for them. That's something. I don't rate him that much, but at least he can make some penalties. So, maybe just attack, but honestly, I think that the biggest key to this game is going to be that there's a midweek game this week. And we know how much Klopp has been complaining about the fixture congestion. So I think if they just defend with basically everybody in the first half, you might be able to outlast Salah and Mane, and maybe they'll start to make some substitutions, and that could make it easier. On the other hand, Fulham also have a midweek game against Brighton. And that is basically a relegation battle. I hate saying that about Brighton because I really like them this year, but they are in 15th, 16th, I believe. 16th, I believe. So maybe if you're Fulham, you just let Liverpool have this game. So we've got this midweek game against Brighton. We've got a much better chance of winning that. Just Liverpool can take the win. I don't know. I don't think they should do that. That'd be kind of, I don't know. That's defeatist if you ask me, but I'm just throwing that out there as an option. So for Liverpool, as I mentioned, there's the midweek game, so early goals are going to be key for them. Man City were able to do this, and I think they definitely have the ability to. Fulham are a team that really struggles to get into games early. You can see guys like Robinson just dribble right and give the ball away. Adebayo, he is pretty good on the ball, but early in the game, he takes a while for him to get into it. I think the press will be able to work well against them, and they should be able to get an early goal. And with that, they'll be able to make some subs and prepare for this Tottenham game they have coming up. Next, no mistakes at the back. You're going to have a Fulham team that's not the most dangerous, but they have taken advantage of mistakes before, and that has harmed Liverpool in the past. Joe Gomez had a pretty big mistake a while ago that gave them a goal. That gave away a goal and cost them a point, I believe. But yeah, it's a tough ask for Liverpool. Not a tough ask, but just don't make any dumb mistakes. And lastly, Boston midfield. It's a Fulham team. Harrison Reed, great defensive midfielder, and probably Anguissa's beside him, and Anguissa's been playing pretty well, I think. So those are two decent guys, but Jordan Henderson, Gini Wijnaldum, they definitely have the ability to really control the ball, win the ball back, make sure you have a lot of possession. And Curtis Jones has been on fire lately. I've started to really like him. So I think just Boston midfield, they've got the ability to do that. I do see Liverpool coming away with the win, but as I mentioned, fixture congestion could end up hurting them. I can see a path for Fulham, but Liverpool, I think, are going to win. Next, we got Leicester against Brighton, and for Leicester, just the break is going to be on against this team. There's a Brighton team that loves to play in possession, a Leicester team that loves to counterattack, and especially with Leicester's quality, the break is definitely going to be on. Vardy will be open and behind. You have guys like Tielemans and Maddison who definitely have the ability to find him. I think that's going to be a pretty decent way for them to score. Next, the fullbacks have a pretty tough game. This is a really good Brighton side with their wingers. Solly March and Tariq Lamptey have been great this year. So when you have those guys out there, the fullbacks are going to be, they have a really tough task. And I'm not even sure who's going to be starting with them. I mean, looking up team news in this time is just not an option. So if you got Ricardo Pereira and if he's back, then he's going to have a really good game. Then if he's not, then James Justin or Mark Albrighton or whoever they decide to go with, Luke Thomas maybe. They have a really tough ask for them. But if they can step up and they can really shut down Lamptey and March, I don't see Brighton coming away with anything for this game. Lastly, as I mentioned before, this is a Brighton team that loves to play in possession. The midfield are going to have to be very good today. You're going to have, hopefully Ndidi is able to come back by now. And if he's in there, he can win the ball back. Make sure you don't have Brighton have too much possession. Because if they do have a spell of possession, they can create chances. They have shown that ability against teams like United and Chelsea and Tottenham. But I don't think they'll really be able to because Ndidi is back there. And I really feel like this is a good matchup for Leicester. Next for Brighton, it is a tough ask for them, but make sure they make chances out of their possession. They really have been struggling to finish off a lot of chances. Despite all their good play, I mean, Umpai has really not been good for them. Welbeck has been doing decently well, but he hasn't been getting the most chances. When they do get a chance, they're going to have to capitalize off of that. Next, as I mentioned, the fullbacks are going to have to be huge. Tariq Lamptey and Solly March, they're going to have a really nice game. And lastly, watch for Vardy. I mean, just straight up, you know how Leicester team loves to attack. Jamie Vardy's going to be looking to get him behind the whole game, so make sure you can watch out for him. Now, I do, as I mentioned, I think Leicester come away with the win. I think it's a really good matchup for them. It's a tough ask for Brighton, but yeah, Leicester should be able to win. And lastly, we've got Arsenal against Burnley. And geez, I think these are the two teams that frustrate me the most this year. So, yeah, going to be a Monday afternoon watching this. That's going to be fun. So for Arsenal, I think the biggest key I want to talk about is deal with the big strikers. Because this is an Arsenal midfield, or Arsenal defense, that's been very weak in the past. And you've had guys like Christian Benteke really be able to dominate them. I think even in the season preview, the Arsenal part got cut off because I couldn't make videos back then. But I'm so great now. But I didn't even mention, I don't think they can deal with Chris Wood very well. If Burnley start their two big forwards up there, that's going to be a tough ask for Arsenal to deal with. I'm not sure if they really have the strength to be able to do that, especially if you got a Party who's still out. Next for them, as I mentioned in the Brighton game, the fullbacks are going to be huge for them. Hector Bellerin has been getting a lot of shtick this year, but he's honestly one of the better players going forward, and I'll stand by defending him until he makes another huge mistake. But man, he's got to get those throw-ins down. But when you get Bellerin or Tierney or maybe Saka, they're going to have a huge game, do well down the flanks for this team. They got to be creating a lot of chances because the attack's been really off this year. Next, midfield, I really want them to prove themselves. If it's Xhaka and Ceballos, because I'll be honest, I don't rate them at all, and I'm partially expecting Burnley to be able to win the ball back off them and be able to break a lot. So I'm really hoping that Ceballos and Xhaka can prove me wrong, have a good game, and really help this Arsenal team. And lastly, this attack is they just have to play well. Aubameyang, he's been awful this year. Willian, he can create chances, but he's inconsistent. Lacazette, I think that he shows effort, but the quality just isn't there for him. And man, if Nketiah, I don't think he's good enough. I think Martinelli is getting close to coming back. He might be huge for them, but yeah, it's really not a good situation for this Arsenal attack. And it's a Burnley defense that we know how good they can be, but if they can prove themselves in this game, then that'll give me a little bit of confidence in them, but I'm not too sure. So for Burnley, as I mentioned, strong defensive performance, because this Arsenal team probably going to have 80% possession. They're really going to be going at this team, but they got to defend well with basically 9 guys. You're going to have the 2 strikers up top, but defensive performance is going to be huge for them. Next, if they get a chance, they got to make sure to take it. I feel like there's going to be a couple of times where you get a long ball into Chris Wood, and he's able to nod that on, or bring it down and come away with a chance. When they get one of those, they're going to have to take that if they want to win. Because I feel like those are going to be able to come, but it's going to be tough. And lastly, I think they have the ability to win the midfield. I mentioned this with Xhaka and Ceballos, not very good. If you can get that defensive performance, just get a couple of steals, start the break, I feel like something good can happen for this Burnley team. Though, I'm not too sure. It is, you're going to have to win a midfield against Ceballos and Xhaka, and even though they're not that good, they're both internationals on some pretty good teams, so something to remember. Now I'm picking Arsenal to win this just because I can't pick Burnley over Arsenal, especially in the Emirates, but I think fans are back in London too, so yeah, I really can't see myself picking Burnley. But yeah, that's everything I have. It's going to be a pretty fun week, especially except for Monday, but it's going to be a pretty fun week, and I still don't have my reaction to last week's Premier League game. Probably not going to be able to get that out until next week. I want to get that out just because of the man of the match and just being completionist, but you haven't had the time to do that yet. But yeah, that's all I have for this week. Looking forward to these games, and yeah, I'll see you.